Kenya, the most powerful economy in East Africa. It employs about 18 million workers in a year. It is the most coveted work environment in the region. But what most people don't know is the rise in toxic workplaces in the country. Here is an expert opinion on how to identify toxic work environments.
Who causes a toxic work environment? It's caused by three people in the organization: disengaged employees, people who are there physically, but they are not there mentally. They just spread negativity in the organization, how we are not being appreciated, we are demotivated. They just communicate bad things to their colleagues. Toxic managers also cause toxic work environment. Toxic business owners or employers also cause toxic work environment.
As we continue to explore the issue of toxic work environments in Kenya, we turn to a popular YouTuber, Muthoni Mukiri, who recently shared her perspective about toxic workplaces. In a video, she describes the warning signs of a toxic work environment and encourages viewers not to tolerate such environments, reminding them that they are replaceable. Let's listen in as she shares her insights on this important issue.
Today, it's about a work environment that's toxic, that's abusive, that's draining you, that's making you depressed, that's bringing you anxiety, that's messing with your mental health. A toxic work environment. Probably we could start by defining a toxic environment. It's a toxic where you're dishonored, your values are disregarded, you're treated in an inhumane way, and probably you don't have a voice, you're too uncertain, you feel you're not good enough, you feel you're underpaid, you feel you are belittled as a person, you feel like they don't honor you and what you bring to the table, and in some cases it goes to sexual abuse, it goes to physical harassment. It's an umbrella of everything that I've spoken about, and I've been written to by a lot of people. I have mails from there's this lady who says sometimes she imagines going to work and she just gets a headache. She says her workspace messed up even her relationship. There are also ladies who've written to me, women who've written to me about sexual abuse in the workplace. It becomes so unbearable, you want to leave, but they feel like that's where they make their living, like they cannot leave. And a lot of people have asked me to talk about this, surviving a toxic work environment. So the first thing that comes to my mind, or the first thing that probably is ideal, is becoming a change agent. This means like standing up for yourself, calling the abusers out, going to the human resource manager, writing emails to the relevant authorities, saying no to their faces, and demanding what's rightfully yours, demanding the right respect, the right treatment, the right, your rights as a human being. That is what it is. Becoming a change agent can be very powerful. However, you need a lot of support from your colleagues or from people who know your story, who can help you with that. You need a lot of support. If you're going to come forward with, for example, if your boss is sexually harassing you, is abusing you physically, or you're depressed, and you need a lot of support, maybe from people who you work with, your colleagues, to be able to come forward with toxicity claims or abuse claims. However, it's a big sacrifice to probably come out and say, our boss has been sexually harassing us, this and this has been happening in the office, I need it to change. You probably have to sacrifice a lot. However, sacrificing your humanity for people who probably would not even recognize it, for people who will probably move on like nothing has happened and ignore your efforts, can be sad, draining, and that is why some people hold back from coming out from the toxicity, or from coming out to say they're harassed, they've been abused, they've gone through all manner of things. We are brought up by this statement of nothing comes easy or no pain, no gain, and we automatically interpret it as you have to really suffer, you have to really go through pain, you have to really go through a lot of tears to make it to the top, or to get that paycheck at the end of the month. But guess what? When we say nothing comes easy, it does not mean it has to be that painful. It means you probably need to work harder. It means you probably need to wake up a little bit early to be consistent. It has nothing to do with you sacrificing your dignity, your standards, what you stand for, sacrificing your body because of a paycheck. It doesn't mean that. So this is what I can tell you, and this is what I will tell you. If you are working and existing within spaces that don't honor you, don't respect you, don't reinforce you, don't recognize you as a human being, don't honor your work, they don't recognize your feelings as a human being, make your exit. Make your exit. I'm sure some people might come here to start saying, oh, you can't just leave your job. Let me tell you, it's not worth taking those antidepressants. It's not worth having those panic attacks in the washroom. It's not worth it. It's not worth sacrificing. No paycheck is worth sacrificing your mental health. Your mental health, your peace is so important, you guys. It's actually priceless. You have no idea. You are not required to kill yourself, to shrink yourself, to dishonor yourself for the comfort of someone else. You're not allowed, you shouldn't, and you're not required to suck yourself dry, to drain yourself, to give away your body, to give away your dignity, to give away your esteem so you can make money for your employer, because that's what usually it is. So for the comfort of someone else, you have to suffer. It has to be painful. You have to lack sleep at night. You have to take antidepressants. You have to go and take those anxiety shots. It's totally not worth it. I would tell you that. So some people might argue, so what do I do? Do I just leave my job? Look for a job, apply for a job, revamp your CV, look for a job, think of an exit plan. You can even plan it for like a whole 6 months, put some money aside, pay your rent in advance, find out what you can be doing to even get an extra coin if you leave work before probably you get the same job. But make your exit. It's totally not worth it, by the way. Sometimes I say there's no amount of money that's worth you risking your health. Health is paramount. Until you're going to hospital, being admitted for days because of ulcers, because of those stress diseases and stress illnesses. It's totally not worth it. It's not. And sometimes you ask yourself, I've asked myself before, like people who drive nice cars, people who are living in very nice homes, people who are so happy in their jobs, people who are really living their lives in a good way and in a happy way. Those people don't work where you are. Not everyone here who's successful has worked where you are. Not everyone is doing what you're doing. And sometimes you find that we sacrifice so much of ourselves and of our dignity, of our well-being for so little money, for such little money. I feel also like what I've talked about when we say nothing comes easy, we equate, it's like we're addicted to suffering. Okay, it's part of humankind, but you shouldn't. It's like we're addicted to pain. We're addicted. No, as in all your life you say you're crying because of a relationship, because of a job, because of this, because of, and it can't be good. It can be good. You do realize that it can be. So revamp your CV, coming up with an exit plan. There's a lady who revamps people's CVs on Instagram. Her name is Joanne, the career coach. I don't even think she knows I follow her. Joanne, the career coach. Her Instagram channel, her Instagram page, her Instagram page is on fire. Wow. Please, if you're looking for, if you're stressed at work, if you're in a toxic environment, you're thinking of looking for a new job, talk to her. She can revamp your CV. She also can help you revamp your LinkedIn account and also help you apply for jobs. So have a plan. Have a plan. Don't just sit there and wait for a miracle. Let me tell you, no one will come to make your life happy or better You have to do it yourself. No company will sit down and realize, by the way, she's taking antidepressants, let's take her. Even the people who get poached are not people who are so stressed. They're people who show like they can rise above the challenges, you know, not in a bad way. But don't think you're suffering there so that an angel can come and rescue. Don't think that you're there suffering and an angel will come and rescue you out of nowhere. Don't think things will fall from heaven and blah, blah, blah. Apply for jobs. Pray about it. Prayers are good so God can lead you the right way. And also make you exit. Do not get sick because of a job. Don't. It's totally not worth it. And that day you leave, let me tell you, you know, most of these jobs, when you leave like this minute, by tomorrow they already have somebody to replace you, somebody who's training you. That is what usually happens. They don't need you like that. They don't. Take your dignity, take your respect, take your education level or whatever, and take it somewhere where it's going to be valued. Don't waste it for people who don't recognize. The employer is just there to make their money through you. It's not like you have any sentimental value to them. You are of any sentimental value to them. No. So if it's not honoring you, if it's not giving you the respect you deserve, if it's making you sick, make your exit. So, as I wind up, if you really want to change the world, change what you show up for, change what you tolerate, and change what you subject yourself to.
In the first episode,
so when I was in second year, life ilikuwa imenipiga vibaya. Life was like really hard for me, and I decided that it was a time that I find a job. Nikaamua kutafuta job, and you know, Kenya ni Kenya. Connections, the connections that you have are the ones that will get you to where you want to be. So I called a friend of mine who worked in one of the government's offices, and I explained to him how life is hard for me. And because he was once a student, a college student, he understood my worry, he understood my challenges, and he was like, since you don't go to school every day, I can help you find a job. As long as you promise you'll do your best so that you don't let me down. I was really desperate for that job. So I promised him that I'm going to give it my best. And he called one of the managers. At first I didn't know actually where, because I was so open to do anything that will bring me money. Because my parents were not in a position at that time to pay for my bills. I had to eat, I had to pay rent, I had to use transport money to go to school when I was expected to be there. So he called this manager, and immediately he told me, I got an interview for you in City Casino. That's when I came to realize that he was talking to the manager of City Casino. At first I was hesitant because I didn't know what actually happens in a casino. Never in my life had I been in a casino before, so I didn't know like what happens there. But I was like, okay, this is my friend, yeye ndo amenitafutia job, and there's no way anaweza nitafutia job yenye ni mbaya. I trusted him. So this manager called me the next day and told me I should go in for an interview. Mimi, I was so excited. I dressed up really well in an official way, you know, just to create the first impression, because you don't even know how they dress in that casino. I went there The manager was really excited to see me, and I thought that was him. He was just being like, welcoming. And I was happy because, in this life, before you get people who treat you like really well, it's hard. Most of the people are rude, and again, you can't know what they're also experiencing in their life. So for this one time, I get a manager, and he's so sweet to me, like he's so welcoming. I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. Actually, I was expecting to be asked like, interview question, how they go, but he did not. He started like telling me, stories about his life. So he was like 50 years old. But honestly, if you looked at him well, you would say like he was 28. Because actually I was connected with a friend of mine who was like 29 years old. So I thought that they were friends, like age mates. But he told me he was like 50 years. I got just curious because he was friendly with me. I decided to reciprocate the energy. I was like, what do you eat? Such stuffs. And then he was like, yeah, you got yourself a job. After now the conversation, I was like, okay. So literally, this is the interview that I was coming in for. And he was like, but there is one condition for you to get the job. If you want to get the job, you have to be involved, in sexual affairs with me. I started tearing down because I was like, okay, so this is what I have to do to get the job. Me, because of how desperate I was, I told him like, I'll have to think about it. I'll have to go back home, think about it, and then I'll give you feedback. When I came home, actually that day I remember the last money that I had, it's the money that I used to go to that interview. So I came home, I didn't have anything to eat. I slept hungry that day. In the morning also, I didn't have anything to eat, so I continued with that. So as I was like in my bed, lying down, I was like, we only live once. And I'm like, I really need help, so it's only one time, so I had like to really rethink about it. So I decided to go and do whatever I had to do to get a job, because despite of everything, I had to find a way to pay my bills. So that day I went, we went to a hotel, which I'll not mention the name. What happened, and I was told that I should report to work the next day. The opportunity that I got was for chipping. Like in casinos, they use like the chips to play. So I got the job for chipping. I did not report to start like earning. I had to do like training for 2 weeks, and they were providing like transport money. So I was like, okay, this is acquiring a new skill. I was open to it. I went for the training, and after the 2 weeks, I started working. And now, the manager, every time he will text me, tell me to go to his office. But because I knew what would have happened, I was avoiding. I was pretending that I'm very busy, But one day he called me and he was like, I got you this job. I did not get you this job to just, come and earn. What we started, we must finish. I did not understand what he meant by that. So when he called again, and I had to go see him in the office. When I got there, he started like touching me, which was very uncomfortable to me. It was like really, really uncomfortable. I couldn't tolerate it, so I just like it was too much. I was like, I did not sign up for this. I thought it was a one-time thing and I could get the job, so I couldn't tolerate it. And I was like, please, I'm not doing this with you. I did not know that you getting me a job I had to be having sex with you every time that you wanted me to. So I walked out of this office, and the next day, I remember early in the morning when I was preparing now to go to work, he wrote me a text and told me, this is really like, it's hard for me. He told me that I should not report to work. I had been removed out of their system just because I refused to have sex with him.
Toxicity in the workplace has devastating effects on employees, which makes them feel out of place.
Here were the rules. Leave your emotions at the door. Didn't make sense what that meant. But then I discovered there was something missing. I wasn't sure that was my place. I started feeling left out of place right from the start. So there were groupies at work. And then they will show me that they don't want me. So I was part of a certain team. We were 15. So the 15 guys at work really made me think like I was not good enough. But I later discovered that was a team dynamic. So they're always fighting each other, because every time when I joined, 3 people were leaving. When I was there, other people were also leaving. So I didn't understand. I thought they were getting better jobs, honestly. Only to realize, oh, okay, this is why you're leaving. So that the dynamic of the team, the guys who remained at work were the gatekeepers. Now I can call them gatekeepers. So their work was to ensure that they frustrate you till you leave. So 2 years later, actually not 2, I didn't even last 2 years in that job. It got so bad to the point that I got depressed, but I didn't know it was depression, honestly. I just thought I was not okay. I was always tired. I always woke up in the morning and I'm like, ugh, I have to deal with this again. So that was every time someone would ask me, how are you? I'm like, is there another way? Like I could just escape this workplace. So the toxicity was so crazy that I think I had to always remember that I signed a contract that I cannot speak about my experience. The worst thing is I never took a break while at work, because I thought if I take a break, my manager will tell me, hey, so these people will say that you're not competent. You know, you may go, then someone will come, you'll get your job. So I was afraid of losing my job. Yet I was really doing my best at work. Because even the people who I would look up to never would take breaks. I actually discovered wine because of that job. Because everybody at work would leave and they will go get drunk. And I'm like, is this because it's fun or you can afford it? Kumbe everybody was dealing with stress differently. I became a different person. I couldn't really even see myself. I started having quarrels with my family, my friends, but I was just crying for help, but I didn't know what was going on. I would cry myself to sleep. It's really it doesn't really make sense that a dream job ended up really like traumatizing me to that point. So even at work, I developed a very bad habit where I will start second guessing myself. So even when I will do something, I had to ask like 10 people. So now, later I realized, oh, this is how, that's how that dark space for me was. Like I never trusted my own guts, my own thoughts. I never trusted myself. You know, when you see yourself through other people, I'm like, I know where you're going to go, and I don't think I'm strong enough as your friend to hold you when you're at that point. So, you sure you... So that's what I do. I can't believe that. I feel like the guys who were hitting on me at that time, when I was in a toxic workspace, I was just like, hey, but now I feel like, I'm like, okay, now we can speak. That's a change. Even friendships as well. There's no Oishe friendship. It's, so what do you plan to do with your current situation? I think now I'm in spaces where we have real conversations then with the question of what's the solution or what are you planning to do about it. So it has changed the relationship I have with myself, with others, and I feel like overall it's really, I think I'm in a good space.
is a place where you wake up in the morning and you're not looking forward to going to work. If anything, you wish you didn't have to wake up to go to work. It feels punishing. It's worse than being in a jail. The most unfortunate thing about working in a toxic work environment is that it flows. It flows to your family, it flows to the people you live with, your friends and everybody else. Because when you get home, you've had a long day. It's one thing to be physically tired, it's something else to be emotionally and mentally exhausted. And a toxic work environment limits a human being's creativity. It does not allow you to flourish because you're never sure of yourself. You always have that self-doubt. And even when your work is good enough, you don't feel the gratitude, you don't feel the joy of when maybe your supervisors tell you that it's a job well done, because probably 99% of the times you're not happy, or maybe nobody seems to ever notice your efforts. And the more you give, they notice you're giving, but instead of appreciating your giving, they demand more giving. So for me, that's a toxic work environment, one that does not give you the energy to wake up and go to it, despite you having a passion for the job and for what you're doing.
So what has your experience been like? Have you encountered such kind of working spaces?
My last job, my last employment, I quit because it was extremely toxic. Especially things got really tricky when COVID came, because as much as COVID hit other industries, and the advertising industry, which I was in, was also hit similarly. Our company was not hit. We still had the same clients. The clients were still paying the same amount of money. But at some point, the management, which was quite a small company, so the management was not that big, the management decided it was time to cut down on employment, on employees, on the staff now. There were 14 of us, and we remember it started with maybe after you worked for January, your salary would get paid in February. So when you get paid in February, it means you've not been paid the whole of January, and now you're not. So your salary comes in February, at the end of February, probably around 23rd, 24th, or 25th. Which literally means the same amount of salary you're receiving for 1 month, now you're receiving the same amount for 2 months, but they're not clear about it. They play around with your mind about it. They keep on delaying. They say they deposited a check. And yeah, it becomes really nasty, because it's, instead of concentrating on the work, you start concentrating on why do you feel exploited. You know, it's one thing to understand that your company is actually going through a difficult moment, because then it doesn't affect how much you work or how willing you are to do what you love to do. But when the same companies, when you keep on bringing the same input and you have the same clients and you know they're paying the same amount of money, and somebody wants to play games with that and with your money and your time, then it becomes really demoralizing. So for me, what happened was, we were 14 of us in the company. It was a marketing and advertisement company. It was more of an online media company. So it was like, let's say maybe like a January, we got paid by the end of Feb, and came March, and now the following, around April, towards the end of April, now that's when they intended to pay the salaries for March, which now had become a norm. Like they were paying 2 months, after 2 months they'd pay you a salary for 1 month.
So, and it wasn't written, so you wouldn't really sue them. It was just delayed salary, as per se. That's how they would call it. But if you quit let's say you quit around January 30th or 31st, or you quit around February 5th, they'll not give you your salary for January. It will literally be impossible. They'll not give you that money. So they'll have stolen from you. So that always gave them an upper hand. One of the reasons apparently we felt they were using that was to make sure they kept the employees they wanted to keep, because they had your salary over your head. So towards April, they fired half the number. The manner in which that happened was very unprofessional, because I do remember, like, one day we have a WhatsApp work group, and you have this number of stories you're supposed to submit. We have online media campaigns, social media campaigns that are supposed to be ongoing and scheduled. And then from nowhere, the PA So the CEO had called the personal assistant and asked that the WhatsApp work group be deleted. So the WhatsApp work group was deleted, and everybody now definitely was removed from the group. But then again, they created another group where now from the 14 employees we were, they created a group of 5 members. These were the employees now. The others, apparently, that meant they had been fired. There was no notice, there was no formal letter. It was just, you deleted from the WhatsApp group. And it was very demeaning, the manner in which it was done. Fortunately for me, I was a member of the 5 that were added to the group, to the new group. But then again, a thought kept on hitting me and wondering, when is my day coming? When is the next time they're going to delete this other group? And where does that leave me as a person? I needed some level of job security. So I felt, even if you're dismissing your own house help in the house, or your own employee in the house, you just don't wake up and remove them from a group without an explanation. You explain to people what happened, and the best you can do is probably give them a notice legally so that they're able to plan their exit. So we went into the new group. We continued. There was a lot of confusion. I didn't know whether to quit or stay, but I stayed. I didn't stay for long. I stayed for 2-3 months, and then I was like, no, I can't live with that kind of fear. So after the others were dismissed, or they were removed from the group, what happened is the bulk of the work they were supposed to be covering was placed on our shoulders. And when we joined the company, the agreement was to submit 3 stories and participate in 1 social media campaign every 2 days. Now here we were. From 3 stories, we were expected to submit 7 stories. These stories had a limit of how many words 1 story had to be. These stories, we were responsible for their sharing. When you write stories online, then again you have to also share them out on social media sites to make sure they get the coverage they need to get. So I found myself in a very difficult spot. I would wake up very early in the morning. Probably I'd be seated on my desk at the house by probably 6 a.m. in the morning. By 6 a.m. I'd be awake and seated. And I'd sit through that desk. If nobody brings me lunch, if nobody serves me, even getting a cup of water was difficult because it was just too much work and too much pressure. Going to the washrooms was literally difficult, because if a message is sent for you, tweet this, tweet that, and you're not there, it becomes a problem. And I'd find myself sitting up to past midnight. Remember, I sat on that desk at 6 a.m. in the morning. So if I'm still seated past midnight, then it meant I developed a back problem. I would wake up, and instead of standing straight, I'd have to kneel, because it was just too painful. And it got to a point where my children, given that my babies were in the house, they were toddlers. And I had a house help then. I had a house help, but then the thing is, children prefer their mother or their parents. So when I was working, they will come and probably want to ask something of me, or ask where something is, or want to report something. And I remember one day I slapped my son. And after I slapped him, it hit me. He didn't need it. He didn't deserve it. It was just coming to his mother. And as much as I was working with this workload, I was also a mom. So for me, that marked it. I just felt that was the end for me in that job, because the level of pressure I was going through was literally putting me in a place where I didn't feel mentally safe. And the other thing was, so we resumed work. And when we resumed work, we didn't go past 2-3 days. We will be required to arrive very early in the morning, because now we have to cover a lot of work. Remember, the team has literally been brought down to something very meager from what we started with. So for me, it became a lot of work. And I realized I would have to be picked by my husband from work late at night, like probably at 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. Remember, then again, end month comes, this person is not paying you. They start giving you stories. They send you out for interviews, you go for interviews. And then until the second month, that's when they would pay. So one time I just wrote an email. I just called in sick actually and said, now that there was a pandemic, sorry to say, but I said one of my members had suffered a pandemic, because I wanted to know what happens if one of my family members suffers a serious illness. What happens to me? Do I get fired? Because other people had gotten fired from the same place because of illnesses. So I wanted to test my value for the company. But at the same time, I was buying time for them to pay my salary. So I called in sick. It was around 5th. I called in sick of July. I called in sick. August came. I insisted. I still had a sick person at home to take care of. The end of July came. I had worked the whole of July. We were not paid. August began. We were not getting paid. Past August 20th, we were not getting paid. We were paid on August 23rd. And what we were paid was the salary for July, which means the August salary is going to come in the next month at around 23rd again. So he paid. When he finally deposited our salaries, I just forwarded my resignation letter. For me, it had become too much, given the pressure, given the threats that came with it. We were constantly being told that the companies are releasing their employees. So we are lucky to have jobs and everything. And at the same time, employees were released from our company. And we still had the same amount of work to do. You see, if we talk about probably the hospitality industry, by the time a restaurant released the employees, it was understandable. The amount of work was no longer the same. The amount of work had been downsized totally. So it was not the same for us. For us, the work was double or triple. But then again, somebody was still withholding our salaries and taking advantage of the high temperatures, or probably the desperation that was there. And for me, that meant I just needed a break, so I took a break. And yeah, one of the most frustrating things about working in a toxic work environment is you wake up and wonder, what happens if I quit this job, given the high rate of unemployment in the country? If I quit, where does that leave me as a person? How do I get assured I'm going to get another job? And it's a tightrope to walk on, because nobody assures you you'll get another job. You might not get another job. But then again, there's a choice to take between your peace of mind, or maybe for me, I needed to choose my peace of mind, and then somebody else, they do not have the luxury of making that decision. And I totally understand it. So probably my call would be to the HR departments in the country. The mental stability of every employee is very crucial to deliver on a job. I loved my job. I loved writing. I was an excellent writer, I say that without a doubt, because when I joined that company, I was earning very little money. But within 3 months, my salary had gone up and I had been promoted to an editor. And my stories were getting the traction they needed past what their stories were getting before I joined the company. And they said that to me, and the money was coming for me. But when COVID came, things changed and somebody decided to take advantage of the situation. So for me, I'd still say, even if I left, other than the workload that was placed on us because other people were fired, for me, there are things I didn't experience. I didn't experience direct insults from the CEO, but then again, we had other employees, especially the cleaners. You would see them get insulted, and printable insults, things that would be very demeaning to hear. And for me, the other thing that stood out was I came from a different community. We were 2 of us. We came from different communities from everyone else in the company. And most of the times when we aired an opinion, or when we were in a discussion and we had an opinion, it was not taken or judged as an opinion. It was judged for who we were. We were, according to them, we were liberal. We were too masculine for women. We were too, we believed in what we were saying too much for them. And they believed in some kind of submission that they couldn't find with us. Because we were the kind of person we were the kind of people who will bring our ideas on the table, and you bring your ideas on the table, and you argue out the ideas and come to a conclusion. So whenever our ideas would get picked, it would cause us problems with the manager. So it started placing us in a place where we felt we needed to refrain from giving out our ideas, because then again we want to be in a peaceful environment. We don't want to seem as if we are competing with the manager, because in our heads we are not competing. We are sharing. We are growing each other. We are listening and criticizing each other. But then again, he viewed us as a threat to his position, or I don't know. Yeah, so the repercussions after I quit, I realized I had begun to hate what I loved to do. I attached my passion with the toxic environment. I did not enjoy writing anymore. I was struggling to write, which was unlike me.
Our investigation into toxic work environments in Kenya has uncovered numerous stories of unsafe working conditions. But it's not just employees who are impacted. Employers who create toxic work environments tend to drive away talented and dedicated employees. In a video that recently went viral, popular radio presenter Anita Ray shares her personal story of a toxic work environment that ultimately led to her resignation. In the video, she describes how her boss's behavior began to impact her life in and outside of work, and the toll that this took on her mental health. Let's listen in as she shares her personal experience and sheds light on this important issue.
First of all, I'm not playing victim. I've never played victim. Number two, I'm not trying to make anybody look like a bad person. I'm just trying to be honest, because I'm tired of this whole mentality of, oh no, you need this job, you need future employment. Please don't say bad things about your bosses. I'm not saying bad things about my bosses. I'm saying bad things about toxic bosses. And I'm not even saying bad things. I'm just saying the truth about toxic workplaces, about toxic bosses, about someone who makes you want to die, about waking up and thinking I need to be on air, and you start crying, literally. Enter the shower and you're asking God, do I really need this job? Genuinely, do I really need this job? I'm not gonna name call here, and I'm not gonna start at you, bring us tea, bring us evidence. I have a lot of tea, and I'm not gonna do that, because this is not about me. I'm doing this genuinely for people who are in workplaces that make them suicidal, people who are in workplaces that make them cut themselves. Jana, I got more than 100 messages of people saying, Aki Anita, me resigned, me Anita, I want to resign. Every single day, and I'm not lying, I get messages of, I'm suicidal, my boss is making me feel like I'm less of a person. And I was like, people don't even know I'm going through that, you know. People don't even understand I'm going through that. Let me tell you something. I had complained about my work issues genuinely for a while. Then I realized, you know what? Anita, you're gonna lose your mind. I just took leave. I went, sat down by the beach and told myself, what the hell am I even fighting for? What am I willing to lose? My sanity, my mental health, my happiness? Like, I'm no longer a happy person. I'm always angry. I'm always grumpy. I hate going to work. I hate it. And if you know me well, for me to hate going on air, me radio is everything for me. Like, being on air gives me happiness, peace, calm. Then that went. And it's hard, and I mean it. It's really, really hard. Akunaga kitumbaya, and I don't think people understand that. For someone who's creative, so someone who has to go on air and make other people happy, for someone who has to go on air and make other people's problems look like they're nothing, you need to be at least okay. You know, people don't understand what happens behind a microphone, what happens behind TV. Maybe you got heartbroken, you fought with your husband, and I'm not complaining, but I love being on air, genuinely. But you go through a lot, you're human. You know, just because you're on air doesn't make you any less of a human being. You have to go there and actually do a job that involves pleasing people who are human beings. So you can imagine you're going through your own personal issues, and then you come to a work environment that, one, you're not supported, two, you're not going to be appreciated, and three, you're being stressed. You can actually die. And let's not pretend. We have seen media people go down the drain, and we always use them as examples. Unaona nani venye alikufa ajue alikuwa mlevi akidrive gari. Unaona nani, guys, it's not funny. We need to start talking up, because listen, we do need these jobs, but we also need healthy working environments. I need that job, yes, but I need it to be in a sane working environment. For heaven's sake, it's in the middle of a pandemic. Can you imagine? And I resigned and I have so many responsibilities. And I told everybody in my life, I told my close people, guys, you have to decide. You either lose me mentally or I lose that job. Everybody was like, hey, we are not going back down that road. We're not. And today I woke up to someone saying, oh, Anita is a drunkard. That's why she got fired. I did not get fired. I don't have any warning letter, even one. And if anybody has warned me on email, they need to, because I don't have a warning letter. I do not have a letter of being suspended. I have nothing. And that's my truth, and I'm not even lying about it. I resigned out of the blues. I just came back and gave a resignation letter, because I realized this has been piling up for a while, since I think December or March. It's been piling up. A lot of negative things happening to you, a lot of negative vibes. You know, you feel like someone is genuinely frustrating you. You come up with something. No, that can't work. But when you do it out there, someone is angry. You're doing it without them. Do you know how hard it is? Someone is even frustrating you outside the office. And then to make it worse, a boss who uses your personal problems against you, that's a boss. You can't be telling people, oh, she's depressed, that's why she's like that. Oh, no, depression has nothing on my character. I am bold, I am aggressive, I am wild. Or you can't be telling everybody, she's depressed, be careful before you deal with that. What the is wrong with people, though? You can't use something like depression against. I owned it, it's mine. I owned all my demons. You can't use my demons against me, you get. And that is wrong. You need to understand the importance of being a good boss. You need to understand that once you have a good working environment, the organization grows. And for heaven's sake, Yani, we are all employed and you're frustrating me. We are literally employed, all of us, and you're frustrating me, or you're frustrating someone else. Telling people if they don't do things their way, they can go. Imagine people can go. This is me sitting here doing a video telling you, imagine people can go. Don't be threatening people like that. Don't. Imagine it's not funny telling people, oh, utajua mini nani, you can always go. Kwani you're the one who brought someone there. You're not God. Baby, I'm genuinely angry that the fact that people can do that to you and still wake up today morning and say, oh, she was a drunkard, we wanted to let her go. You fired people, you didn't let me go. So don't be lying that I don't work hard. That hurt my feelings. I work very, very, very hard, by the way. And anybody who knows me knows that. Me even work, I'll work for my show, help someone else, because we all grow. We grow together. That's it. I need people to understand, yes, we need these jobs. And yes, bosses, we need to be pushed. We are human beings. You need to put a stand with whoever you're working with and tell them, I need you to work. But you cannot frustrate people. You cannot belittle people. And please, it's not a freaking competition. It's not. Who are you competing with? Who are you competing with? I keep trying to put my head around it. Who are you competing with? Because as a boss, you can't compete with your employees. It doesn't work like that. It has never worked like that. If you're a boss, you have to help your employees grow. If you're a boss, you should show the way, not shout the way. Get the difference. And if you're in you're in a toxic working environment and you're watching this video, let me tell you something. Put your freaking foot down. I'm not telling you to resign, by the way. I may resign because my problems are not fixable. I have tried, trust me. I've tried, they're not fixable. So, If you're in a toxic working environment and you're watching this video, put your foot down. Best sit your boss down and tell them, you know what? Imagine I love working here. I do. But I can't work in this environment like this. You're making me lose my mind. And if you think it's going to make you lose your mind, walk away. So listen, as I was saying, if you're in a toxic working environment, you need to sit your boss down. You need to sit the person who's toxic and tell them, listen, I love working here. I love this job, but you're a toxic person. And I don't have to like you. I just need to respect you. And I do respect you. Because we need to understand that. You don't need to love someone to work with them. You don't need to like them. That's overrated. You just need to respect them and do your job. That's it. Now, once we understand that, respect somebody and do your job. Leave alone their personal lives. They're not your friends. Leave alone their problems unless you're helping them. Don't bound them. And number 3, if you can't support someone at work, leave them alone. Don't pull them down. It's really, really wrong. As a boss, if you really feel like you're tired of working with this person, please fire them. But frustrating people to suicide, oh Lord, let's not even talk about suicide in media. Let's not even go there, guy. Let's not even talk about people who become alcoholics. Because me, I'm middle, I'm drinking. Let's talk about people who become alcoholics, you know. But we're media, we want to look perfect, we're hypocrites. Between selling fake news and selling controversy and then making people look bad for actually selling the controversy, you get. It's a lot of hypocrisy. But I'm actually tired of it. So tired that I told someone, if this makes me never get employed on air again, imagine I'll be content with it, because I'm tired of the lies. I'm genuinely tired. And the pretense and someone trying to pull you down. And not because they can do a better job than you, because they're scared you're doing a good job. That's what pisses me off. If you're pulling down to do a better job than me, akia mungu fanya. By the fanya. But if you're pulling me down because I'm doing a job you can't do, that's stupidity. That's stupidity for real. If you're pulling me down because you feel, oh, Anita can do this better than me, and you're pulling me down for how? It's the same reason people in media don't hold each other's hand, because you're scared. What if I hold his hand and he becomes a better person than me? What if I help them and they grow better? Come on. I can't do what you do. Imagine I can't, and you can never do what I do. And as I end this video, listen and listen very well. If you're in a toxic working environment, speak out. Speak out before you lose your mind. Speak out before you become a mental health statistic. Speak out before you actually can't even speak, for that matter. I'm begging you. I've been there. I have cried myself to work. I swear to God. I have a producer sometimes at night, and he writes, we prepare music with him. He's one of the people who knows how much I've cried as I go to work. And I used to ask God, do I really need this job? Do I need this job? Every time I went home at around 1:30 a.m. in the morning, not complaining, I love that show to death. I used to ask myself, do I really need this job? What if I get jacked? What if I get shot? I've gotten carjacked. What if all this happens to me? But I love that job more than anything. For me to get to a point where I'm crying, where I hate that job, where I go on air and sometimes I genuinely cry when I'm playing a song. I play music, it makes me sad enough to cry. It's not worth it. I realize it's not worth it. It's not worth it at all. And listen, the people watching this video, I know, trust you. Kuna wenye they don't care. Kuna wenye they've been celebrating, telling me niko na kiburi. Oh, I should have gotten fired kitambo. I'm going to repeat this. I didn't get fired by anyone. I resigned. I got tired of And my exact statement when I resigned, I told my boss, one of my directors, I'm just tired of working in a toxic environment. And I was very honest about it. So I don't care what my bosses might say after this. The truth is, I just got tired. Nothing other reason. I just got tired of coming to work every day to get frustrated. I got tired of that. It's very tiring. Now, listen, I might be toxic to a lot of people. I'm human. That's okay. But I always say, if something is toxic for you, leave it. If I'm toxic for you, you really need to learn how to block people and unfollow them. Genuinely. Because we can't all be good, and you're always bad in someone's story. But anyway, one more time, I'm going to repeat this. If you're in a place that makes you risk your life, risk your mental health, and risk your sanity, it's never worth it, and it's not worth it, and it's never that serious. Because I'm going to end by saying this: if today you collapsed and died, they will replace you tomorrow. Because do you know what? The job always goes on, and life always goes on. And I mean, always goes on. Remember, stay safe and stay sane.
It is clear that the effects of toxic work environments can be long-lasting and difficult to overcome. Many of these individuals have sought help from therapists and other mental health professionals to help them cope with their experiences. Victims of toxic work environments usually feel alone and isolated. It is important for employers to create an environment where every employee feels respected and dignified. We will be discussing the solutions provided by experts for dealing with toxic work environments.
There are very many ways of doing this. You can do this through research. You can do this through your colleagues in the office. You can do this through your peers, and by peers I mean maybe people you are in the same colleges with, or you interacted with in seminars that you attended of the same what is it called, profession. So you can do that, discuss with them so as to learn. You're here, what you're doing mostly is learning how to resolve conflict, how to manage conflict, how to manage different personalities in terms of your team members, in terms of your bosses. So you really have to upskill yourself and learn how to handle different situations before you decide to quit. This can be your fellow colleague, it can be your spouse, it can be your family member, it can be a friend, but their main role here is sanity check. You don't want to go crazy, because a toxic work environment can literally make you nuts. In Kenya, we call this kujichocha. You must kujichocha yourself and tell yourself things like, this is not a crisis, it's only a challenge. You also tell yourself things like, my job, my title does not define me holistically. I have other roles that I believe I play better. And I remember when I was in campus doing my master's, one of my lecturers said, sometimes you're in a meeting and this person, your boss rather, has really scolded you to a point that you have zoomed out and you can only think of giving them a hot slap or punching that nose so that they can learn. But when you get to this level, what do? You excuse yourself. And these are our words, by the way. We found it very hilarious. You excuse yourself, go to the washroom and flush that toilet as many times as you can. Apparently that flushing has a way of calming your nerves. Even if you move from one toilet to the other, flushing, but you're busy there calming yourself. So yes, I hope it helps. You can trade stories with your colleagues and make it and laugh about it. Like one of the people I was talking to were telling me that they usually tell themselves, when you get into this office, you leave your happiness and joyfulness at the door, at the entrance, and you pick all the tiredness that you left there and the negativity, now you wear it, and then you get into the office. When you're leaving to go home, you drop everything that you had picked from the door to the office and now pick your mother role, your husband role, you whatever other role that you have out of the office. Basically what you're saying is that she learned that is the only way she can separate work environment from home environment, so that she doesn't take the negativity of the office space to her home. Maybe have sticky notes of motivational quotes around your workstation. You can even have pictures of your children or your pet or your girlfriend or your spouse, pictures that make you happy, just to zone out from this toxic work environment. There's a reason why I have this as my last point. If you have tried anything humanly possible, you have done all these things that I have talked about, 5 points, you have talked to the human resource of your organization, nothing has changed, you have tried all you could and nothing is working, it's time to start planning your exit. Toxic work environments have very negative effects. They could bring a depression, anxiety. You could either overeat or undereat, and it's not healthy. You can just literally not know how to balance this toxic environment, and you're not able to separate it from your home environment. So if you get to this point, this is the last resort. Just start planning your exit. And in this point, I would also recommend a movie on Netflix. If you haven't watched it, go and watch it. It's called Inhuman Resources. Unfortunately, there are some employers or managers who don't see toxic work environment developing or unfolding. Others see it and decide to ignore it or underestimate the effect this toxic environment will have to the organization without thinking that the productivity in the organization will go low. They'll have a bad brand image because of the turnover that is high, so people go talking badly about this organization. They literally underestimate the effect of a bad, or rather a toxic work environment. So if you realize, if you notice that a toxic environment is developing in your organization, it's about time that you strategize with your managers, with the HR, even a representative of the employees. Have a sitting and strategize on a solution. Find the issues that are happening and decide on how you're going to solve them. Getting an expert might help if you, as the employer, the managers, are willing to change. No expert will come and perform miracles if you, the manager, if you, the employer, are not willing to change. So the change must first come from yourself. If you, the owners, are the ones creating the toxic environment, accept your mistakes, as hard as it may be, accept and work on changing. In this strategic meeting, whatever is decided of how to get to move the organization forward is all that matters. Sometimes it can even lead to a proposal of laying off people who bring negativity within the organization.
My name is Eric Njanga Wainaina. Yes, I'm an administrative officer working at the Human Resource Department. Well, my background is in finance, but I'm in HR working with different kinds of payments. Yes, basically that is just a bit of my roles that I work in HR.
So talk to us about toxicity. What does toxicity in a workplace for you entail?
Toxicity in a work environment is where, let's say, colleagues are not in, let's say, they are in a misunderstanding. They are not understanding each other, or let's say they are, what can we say, they are different. Let's say because of not understanding their roles, different stuff, the work environment can become toxic because of even misunderstandings and lack of respect. Yes, those are some of the things that can make a working environment be toxic.
So have you dealt with toxicity as a professional, and what remedies probably have you had to input to assist the employee?
So here at HR we receive different kinds of complaints, one of them being that their work toxicity in different departments. We've had several cases, though not so many. One of the cases was because one staff was not able to handle her own issues, or let's say we can say the staff had a misunderstanding with another colleague, and the issue escalated such that the staff was unable to come to the work, his department or even his work area. How it was remedied is that the two staff had a sit down with also the HR director, and also the issues were put across, and also some, what do you call this, some counseling was done, especially because the toxicity as it was noticed, it was something that something was about depression. Depression was probably the major factor that led to that toxicity, and that particular issue was handled very well. And yes, and the staff now they are working in a very harmonious way.
Are there times you're forced to release employees? Are there times employees are released from their stations because of probably being toxic?
Yes, we have certain employees who've been released, who've been terminated, their contracts have been terminated. some of them being probably they come to work drunk and they do not relate well with their supervisors, or let's say they absent themselves. So by those factors they've been released. They have undergone though the due process, the disciplinary processes, and they've been released. Yes.
What would be your advice to somebody that's going through toxicity in the workplace?
My advice will be just understand the situation, understand why there's that toxicity. Just try to dig deeper and understand why am I going through this, and also try to see what you can do first of all from your part to avoid the toxicity before escalating it to the, let's say, to the superiors. Try to understand why am I dealing with this, why is this happening to me. First of all, address it yourself.
Have you had to deal with cases of sexual harassment?
Personally not, but because we have a very broad staff base, such cases have been there, and the matters have been dealt with using legal means, and the staff who've been found culpable of the sexual harassment, they've been terminated. Yes.
How do you think like toxic work environment affects someone's productivity in the workplace?
Yes, it affects, or the toxicity affects the productivity of the employee, definitely. First of all, the employee, because of the toxicity, might absent himself, and then if the person absents himself, then no work is done. So basically it affects the department as a whole and also the institution as a whole, because the person is not available at his workstation, and also is not able to perform his duties as he or she is supposed to do.
Okay. So conclude by telling us what advice you give to employees who are probably going through a toxic work environment, and sometimes even coming from the bosses, let's say probably delayed salaries that go for months. Let's say probably just also toxicity coming from the company itself, or the organization of the employer for that matter.
First of all, let's say with the bosses, first of all you have to understand your boss, know what kind of a person he or she is, and also know where your boundaries are, and also try to ensure that you do things right, do whatever you've been told the right way, and also on a timely manner that will avoid any kind of toxicity with your supervisor. In the other issue, let's say of salaries, the best way we can say is just plan yourself. It's hard at times to have delayed salaries because you have so many commitments, but planning ahead, knowing that probably the institution is not very stable financially, planning yourself ahead of time it will go a long way to help you to avoid such situations that you don't have enough, let's say, cash to come to work and also to sort yourselves out.
Thank you so much, Eli.
Creating an inclusive and safe work environment is key to preventing toxic behavior. Employers need to prioritize training employees on how to recognize and address toxic behaviors, as well as promote safe and supportive environment for all employees. Here are 10 methods that employers can use to fix a toxic work environment and build a more positive one. 1. Engage with employees in positive ways. Have a positive presence. Do not sit locked up in your office all the time. Let your employees know that you don't place yourself on a pedestal by engaging with them regularly throughout the day. 2. Create a safe space for healthy discussions. Emotional intelligence is key to any great relationship. Create an excellent atmosphere for communication. Keep the door open for employees to express their concerns or ask questions without fear of ridicule or losing their jobs. 3. Lead by example. Be willing to teach your employees procedures and policies by living them. Leaders that lead by example create a more favorable workplace vibe. 4. Express gratitude to your staff members. Show your staff appreciation and recognition where it's due. Let them know that they are valuable and without them, the company would fall. Be sincere and point out specific things that they succeed at. 5. Tap into the unique strengths of each team member. Consider each person's skill set by assigning projects or teams that will give them a chance to shine and use their strengths to the best of their ability. 6. Show respect for your employees' needs. Respect each person's boundaries and needs, whether it be time off for a religious holiday or letting them communicate a HR issue. 7. Provide constructive forms of criticism. Coach in a constructive and positive manner. Ask powerful questions that will help them formulate new ways of doing things if something isn't working, and support their individual job growth and potential. 8. Establish and maintain a standard of fairness. Be fair to all your employees. Treat all your employees with respect and equality. Honor their diversity and individualism. 9. Facilitate opportunities for inclusive team bonding. Create camaraderie between employees and leaders through socialization and sharing. For example, host a weekly or monthly event like Bagel Fridays, where the company supplies everyone with breakfast and coffee to encourage a comfortable and communicative workplace setting. 10. Allow team members to own their roles and performance. Give employees the freedom and flexibility to make decisions that best suit their project or work goals. Within reason, this autonomy will help build trust and make employees feel more confident and valued. The causes of toxicity and hostility in the workplace are generally linked to negative attitudes among employees regarding management procedures. Workplace environments can transform when employees feel safe, respected, and heard. Although these suggestions are just the tip of the iceberg, they can help inspire you to be the change your fellow teammates need in order to fix a toxic work environment. Welcome to this interview, where we will be exploring the important topic of mental health and toxic work environments with a highly qualified clinical psychologist. As we continue to navigate a rapidly changing work landscape, it has become increasingly clear that the psychological toll of toxic work environment is not only pervasive, but potentially debilitating. Our guest today brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to this conversation, having worked extensively with individuals who have suffered consequences of toxic work environments. In this interview, we will discuss the impact of toxic work environments on mental health and strategies for coping and healing from the effects of workplace toxicity. Join us as we delve into this crucial topic and gain insights on how we can work together to promote a healthy, thriving work environment for everyone. Clinical psychologist Riziki Ahmed explained why people experience toxicity in their workplaces. So what does a toxic workplace do to someone? If it's toxic, then it means it's not a good working environment, so the stress levels are high and someone can have high anxiety levels. How many people come to you in a day due to work stress? There are many people, especially anxiety, stress, and depression, and it can be work-related, especially when there's change of management, or employees maybe don't understand what is happening, or when there's restructuring and you don't know if you will lose your job. What brings about toxicity in a workplace? I think it's competition. At times, everybody wants to step on another person to get to another level. And also, if you have the top management, maybe there are people who listen to stories from other people, like they are told stories about the other people they listen. They shouldn't allow such kind of things so that there is no storytelling. Also, there is competition. I think there should be clear structures of if I come in at this level, this is how I will advance. If the structures are clear, I think it can also reduce toxicity in the workplace, and also having sessions, maybe team building sessions. How does it affect someone's productivity? When you're stressed, you'll get burnt out, and when you have a burnout, your productivity will definitely be very low. So there's no way you're going to produce when you're having a burnout, because you don't feel like doing anything. You're feeling very tired. Your alertness is very low, so you will not be able to produce at your very best. It won't be as good as it would have been if the person had gone deeper into depression. What solutions would you recommend? Having clear structures in a workplace, having clear reporting mechanisms as to who reports to who, and having regular meetings to discuss anything, and when implementing any changes, to make sure that they take the staff through a lot of discussions on the same, to make sure that they understand exactly what the change is. Supervisors and managers are meant to guide their juniors to help them to grow into different fields. But most employees complain that the supervisors make it hard for them to be productive. The Star spoke to a supervisor who requested to be anonymous, who works for an organization in Nairobi, to give a view of what a supervisor is supposed to do and why many employees feel oppressed in their workplace. Why do you think some supervisors oppress their employees? I think those that do it draw their wrong motive from the notion that when you're a supervisor, you're superior. The fact is that if you're a supervisor, you are a leader and should avoid feeling or acting in a makes those in your team feel inferior. Do you think they do it willingly or unwillingly? I think for some, it is deliberate, coming from thinking that they must be harsh to gain respect from those they supervise. For others, it may just be an issue of communication or lack of it. What drives a boss to make outrageous demands for an employee that leads to depression? If they are in a situation where they have outrageous demands from their seniors, they are more likely to make the same of those they supervise. What are some of the measures the company needs to put in place to avoid such? I think it is important to companies to invest in management training, especially on issues related to emotions. Stress management is also a critical skill that managers need. By working with legal experts, employees and employers can work together to create a safe and healthy work environment for all. On our ongoing investigation, we recognize the importance of legal experts in providing insight into the legal implication of toxic work environments. Legal experts can provide guidance on legal frameworks that exist to protect employees in Kenya. In cases of toxic work environments, legal experts can advise employees on their legal options and provide representations in legal proceedings. Additionally, the legal experts can advise employers on their legal obligations to prevent and address toxic work environments. Today, we have reached out to a legal expert to provide insight into the legal implications of toxic work environments on employees.
Case law has defined what a toxic work environment is, and it includes a couple of things. It includes a hostile environment. It includes an environment where there is sexual harassment. It includes an environment where there is gaslighting, or an environment where employees feel that their self-esteem and dignity is being taken away day by day. One recourse is the internal dispute resolution recourse, and the second recourse is the court direction. In the first recourse, the employee is supposed to speak to their direct supervisor. They are supposed to speak to their HR manager and also speak to their overall manager. That is depending on whether the matter needs to be escalated. In all those cadres, the employee is supposed to keep proper records and write emails, write WhatsApp messages, put it in writing in form of letters, so that eventually, if there will be need to go to court, there will be evidence. If there will be no evidence in court, the court will deem that the employee condoned that behavior and they will not be paid whatever damages they would have been paid. The second route, the court route, is when you have tried all those internal dispute resolution mechanisms and they have failed, then you are required to resign and indicate that the reason for your resignation is a toxicity. That way the court can find that you are constructively dismissed. Constructive dismissal is a situation again where you resign, not out of your own volition, but out of the necessity which has been created by a toxic work environment. But I must insist again that every case will turn on its own circumstances and the level of evidence provided by the employee. So that, again, if the employee has provided good evidence and if the employee has very good grounds, they have no reason to fear that they will spend a lot on a case and lose. If you are working at a place and it became toxic and you left through that process we have called constructive dismissal, where you resigned involuntarily, you have 3 years to file suit. After that, your suit becomes statute barred. The law considers 3 years to be reasonable time because 1, litigation has to come to an end, and 2, suits do not have to hover over people's head like the sort of
that are there. I'm not saying they don't exist, but I think it takes both parties to then agree on the kind of work environment that they want, and the employer provides the lead by putting in place the policies, the procedures for dispute resolution, making it clear that this is not acceptable behavior in this company, that people are to be managed in a way that treats them with respect. And if there are cases where these standards are flouted, then there is transparency and fairness, and people feel safe enough to come forward to raise these issues. The unfortunate reality is that most employees do run into problems, but they don't report. So if it's hidden, if you're too shy or too embarrassed or for whatever reason you're afraid, you don't report it, then the employer cannot take action. But the level of toxicity in an organization depends on the people. They must have a situation where you decide to create the right environment. And really, the tone starts at the top, because if the CEO in the organization or the MD, whatever the title is of the person at the top, sends a clear message that these are the values of this organization, you have policies and procedures, you have avenues for redress, you have grievance handling procedures in place, then there is a process to deal with these matters. So it may sound utopian, but it's what we do every day, resolving conflicts at the workplace in a way that is win-win for both parties. Where that fails, we end up in court. We're dealing with a very stressed group of people. We're dealing with mental health issues. We're dealing with drug and substance abuse. And employers are having to take the initiative to go beyond the norm to see how to support employees. So we haven't actually seen a lot of disputes in this area dealing with toxicity instead. And I have dealt with those kinds of issues in the corporate world, where a manager has a style of management that it's basically bullying. That person is going through bullying, and it's not one of the things that we start with. There should be a feedback system in the organization. In my view, the problem is not the law. The problem is the implementation, the compliance with the law. The capacity of DOSH and the Ministry of Labor as a whole to carry out inspections and to do awareness training to employers, because this is their role. The FK does it, but really it is the government that is supposed to help employers and corporates, NGOs, to understand what is required of them, and employees also to understand their rights. So it is the compliance and the implementation where there's a gap.
As we conclude this eye-opening investigation into toxic work environments, it is clear that change is needed. It is not enough to simply acknowledge the problem. Action must be taken in order to ensure we create safe and healthy workplaces for everyone. But the good news is that solutions are within reach. We have heard from our experts who have provided us with practical steps to identify and address toxic work behaviors, from creating clear policies and procedures to fostering open communication, action today, and pave way for a brighter, more productive and fulfilling future for us all.